The Detroit Pistons have their win streak snapped by the San Antonio Spurs in a tough loss for Detroit. We'll break down what went wrong in this game against Victor Wembanyama. We'll break it down. Today's episode, Locked On Pistons Podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Khahil. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the last 4 years, so Locked On Network Brand Credential Media member over the last 3 years, and I appreciate all of you guys who helped make Locked On Pistons one of the best podcasts out there and making it your first listen of every single day. I also want to thank you guys for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in America. We appreciate all of your guys' support. Later on, I want to talk about some emotional decisions that were made today, and I'm probably going to lose it in about 15 minutes if I hadn't already by then. And then also, is this just one night, just one game, or is this a sign of things to come for the Detroit Pistons? But first, let's go ahead and just break down what went wrong in this game for the Detroit Pistons. They lose this one to the San Antonio Spurs, 114-103. San Antonio was on an 8-game win streak. Detroit was on a 5-game win streak. These are two of the best teams in the entire NBA. They have two of the top 5 MVP candidates. They have two of the most bright young stars in the league. It was on NBC and Peacock. This was a big-time game for the Detroit Pistons, for the San Antonio Spurs. And the first half, I thought, absolutely delivered on everything everyone was expecting. It was, I believe, a 1-point game in the first half. And it was... Of all the games we've seen this year, I think this was probably, it was a 2-point game, I'm sorry. It was 57-55, San Antonio at half. Out of all the games Detroit has played this year, this game I felt gave the most playoff atmosphere type through a half. In that first half, you saw multiple adjustments made by both teams. You saw guys getting physical. You saw guys giving it everything they had. You saw guys getting emotional. And the crowd was into it. There was a great crowd. It was very loud. It felt like a playoff atmosphere, and both teams really treated it like a playoff game. So from a basketball fan perspective, not just like a Pistons perspective, but from a basketball fan's perspective, through the first half, that was one of the best halves I've watched this year of Pistons basketball. It was very entertaining. It was two high-level teams playing very well against each other and trying to figure each other out. It was a lot of fun to watch in that first half. So how did the Pistons end up losing by 11? There were a few things that jump out to me that the Pistons have to correct and maybe not correct, it maybe isn't the right, figure out moving forward, especially when they match up against San Antonio again, I believe, next week. Number one, Victor Wembanyama completely dominated this game. He could have shot, what did he shoot in this game? 2 of 9? Or no, that's just in the first half. What did he shoot on the game? Shot 6 of 16 on the game. He could have shot 0 of 30 in this game, and I would have came on here and said he dominated the game. Being in person for a Victor Wembanyama game like this one, I don't know if he's like this. I mean, he has to be close to like this every game because he's a MVP candidate. But being at a game like this and being able to see how he just changes everything on the floor, it's crazy. I watched the Pistons at this game. I was at the game. I watched the Pistons get deterred from even going up with shots, from even dribbling to the paint because he's there. He had 6 blocks in this game. You could have given him just 15 to try to paint accurately just how many shots and possessions he ended for the Detroit Pistons. I have not seen somebody dominate a game in which the way Wemby did in this game. It was a defensive masterclass. He completely scared all of the Pistons ball handlers. It was crazy. So that number one was the main issue they ran into. They couldn't solve the Victor Wembanyama problem on defense. And they, at one point, it felt like as the game went on, they tried to test him a little bit more early. He swatted a few shots. They stopped. Ron went at him a few more times still. Danis went after him a few times. Assar went after him still at the end of the second quarter. But then after that, I mean, you could very clearly see guys were just ignoring him. Like, they were just like, or not ignoring him, avoiding him. It was just like, we can't stay away from, oh, he's there, let me just go away this way. Like, it was bad. It was something special to watch. I'm not going to lie. So that's number one. Number two, the Pistons ran into a big problem with how they wanted to guard Wemby in the half court, especially in the first half. I mean, they kind of exploded in the second half as well. But they ran into this problem of, and I understand this, every time Wemby set a pick and he rolled, or anytime he ducked under the basket, or anytime they set a pin down for him and tried to have him wrap around to the other block, anything like that, they had multiple defenders crash down and give him, whether it be a forearm, whether it be a little shoulder, just to put multiple bodies on him, make him feel them throughout the game and try to wear him down. And also, he's 7'7", and if you don't have at least two bodies around him on a roll, he may just jump over and just dunk on somebody. So, like, they were sending multiple bodies to him anytime he got anywhere close to the paint or was involved in any action. And again, I understand that strategy. The problem that came about on that was that if your ball handlers are processing it fast enough, there is open windows to kick out for open three-point shooters. And in the first half, De'Aaron Fox was doing an incredible job of this. Stephon Castle was doing an incredible job of this. Even Dylan Harper is doing a great job of this. Their ball handlers were doing a great job of noticing this and immediately swinging it. And the main player that really just killed the Pistons in the first half as a strictly off-ball scorer was Devin Vassell. I mean, he just killed them. He had 18 points in the first half. And all of his points, kid you not, all of his points were either catch and shoot threes from guys leaving him to tag down on Wemby and then having him recover, or, which is the next part that the Pistons struggled with, even if they did recover in time to take away the three, there were some, either one, you're trying to cover up too much ground, you can't really close out correctly without being reckless, or they just flat out were reckless closeouts and weren't good enough to where either they were hitting catch and shoot threes consistently, or Devin Vassell was just attacking closeouts over and over and just going into two dribble pull-up middies, a layup at the rim. That was the source of their biggest issue. They had a problem with Victor Wembanyama on both ends of the floor. On defense, they were sending bodies to him, and they weren't doing a good job of recovering out of that. And then the players around them were able to make them pay. And then on the other end of the floor, Wemby just completely destroyed their shot diet. Like, he made it to where they didn't even want to take point or shots in the paint. We saw Tobias go to a sweeping hook shot that I've never seen him take at all this year because Wemby was around. I saw Cade take a one-legged floater from the free throw line because Wemby was around. I saw Duren get the ball underneath the rim, go to pump fake, and lose the ball because he saw Wemby come from behind, and he just dropped the ball because he saw him coming. I saw Duncan Robinson backdoor his man in a rejected DHO, get the ball, what he thinks usually would be an open layup. He sees Wemby, decides to just go ahead and Steve Nash dribble it all the way around the other way and try to get a shot from three on the opposite corner. It was, and even in possessions that didn't directly happen to have the ball actually in the paint, the reason why the ball wasn't in the paint because they saw Wemby and they wanted to go somewhere else. Like, they had a Wemby problem, and that's why he's already a top 5 player in the NBA. I mean, that was the problem they ran into. Obviously, they didn't shoot the ball well. That hurts, but I mean, the Pistons are not a team that you expect to just shoot amazing all the time. Now, they only made they made 5 threes in the first half. They ended the game with only 7 threes made. You'd hope that they can hit more than that. They had a bad shooting night, and Cade shot absolutely horrifically. This was a horrible game for Cade. He shot 5 of 26 in this game. I mean, it was a really bad game for Cade. He couldn't hit any of his outside shots. There were openings for these outside shots, and he didn't hit any of them. He was 2 of 9 from deep. He was 3 of 17 on twos. A lot of those were Wemby blocks. I think he got blocked by Wemby 3 or 4 times. He got deterred by Wemby multiple times. He was going to different shots that he doesn't usually go to try to avoid Wemby. It was not a good game for Cade. I thought there were plenty of shots that he usually makes that he could have made. And I think he was just really off tonight. And it was a bad game to be off because he had a lot of, noise over the last week. And this was a big time game with everybody watching. And he had a really bad game. 5 of 26. I don't know how. There's no defending that. Like, I don't know what to say. That's 19% from the field. I mean, that's horrible. That's really, really bad. Really bad. So I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I broke down some X's and O's. We could go even further into the X's and O's on some certain things, but really, like, it boils down at the end of the day, Wemby just dominated this game. It is what it is. His gravity as a roller opened up three-point shots for everyone else, and he was just dominant on defense. I'm interested to see how the Pistons try to counter this next week when they go against them. This game was very close in the first half, and it was still close midway through the third quarter. And then something happened. An emotional decision happened, and I cannot comprehend why this happened. We'll talk about what that is coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires in Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And if you want to join the Locked On Pistons Discord server, or if you want to also get Locked On Pistons ad-free, one clean listen, don't have to worry about all the ads, you guys can head over to LockedOnPodcast.com/everydayer club to join the Everydayer club, or you can also click the link in the description below. There was an emotional decision made in the third quarter of this game that I'm not going to sit here and say that the Pistons lost the game because of this. Because with Cade shot 5 of 26, you feel me? Like, I can't sit here and I'm not going to sit here and say that this is why they lost the game. They lost the game because they couldn't make shots. They lost the game because Cade had a really bad game. That's why they lost. And they had a hard time dealing with Wemby's presence. That's why they lost the game. But what certainly didn't help, what certainly did not help, is the fact that JB Bickerstaff benched Assar Thompson at the 8-minute mark, and he did not play again the rest of the game. Assar was benched the entire second half. He played 4 minutes in the second half and then was benched for 20 straight minutes. Now, to get some context here, when Assar was subbed out, the score of this game was a 1-point game. When Assar was subbed out, the Pistons were down by 1. The Pistons had just called the timeout because Devin Vassell walked into a pull-up midi and gave the Spurs a 63-62 lead, and JB Bickerstaff called the timeout. Now, I want to read this quote real quick after the game. After the game, JB was asked about why Assar only played 18 minutes. He said, quote, "I thought Ron was playing well and gave Ron extra minutes." This is what I'm going to say to you guys right now. That is not true. I'm telling you guys, I know for a fact that's just not true. What JB is doing right there, he is trying to protect himself, protect Assar, and protect the locker room culture, all that. He's trying to protect himself and his team. That's what that is. Because that is not what happened. I was at the game. I saw what happened. That is not why Assar Thompson did not play the rest of the game. Also, for people who watch the game or can simply just do math, if you're trying to play Ron more minutes, simply one, you can play them together, which they've done more lately. That's one. 2, You don't bench up your starter for 20 straight minutes because you want to get someone else 3 to 4, 5 more minutes. You want to shave his rotation down a little bit? Okay. Benching your guy 20 straight minutes, anyone with the brain knows that's not actually why. And I was at the game, so I saw what happened. So I know what happened, and that is not why Assar Thompson did not play the rest of this game. The reason why Assar Thompson did not play at all in the second half after the 4 minutes he did play, and the reason why I'm spending time on this, is because Assar was having a really good game. He was playing aggressive. He went at Wemby. And at the end of the second quarter, the Spurs went to Wemby on Assar for 4 possessions. Something we've talked about nonstop on this podcast that we're expecting to see happen. And they went to it 4 straight possessions. And the Pistons generated good shots almost all 4 possessions and scored on 3 of them. They got Assar as a screener. Assar attacked him. Assar backdoored him, got him in a pump fake, finished with his left hand. He was playing great in this game. And when he was on the floor, they were 9 points better with him on the floor in this game. Their offensive rating was 25 or 15.2 points better with him on the floor in this game. They could not. It was a 1-point game when he was subbed out of the game. He never came back into the game, and the Pistons ended up going down at one point by like 16. They ended up losing by 11. He played less minutes than Karis LeVert and Danius Jenkins. Unfathomable basketball reasoning. Unfathomable decision. And the reason why he did it was because on the play that Devin Vassell scored on, it was at, let me get the exact mark so in case someone wants to go back and look at it themselves. It was at the 8:21 mark, or around the 8:20 mark of the third quarter. The Spurs run a dribble handoff for Devin Vassell, but first he's coming off an off-ball screen with De'Aaron Fox. Assar and Cade don't communicate well on the switch. Vassell comes off the DHO free because Cade's expecting an Assar switch. Assar notices it late. He tries to run through. Can't get through Duren. Now Vassell gets into an open midi. He makes it. JB calls timeout. When JB calls that timeout, he goes at Assar. Let me make this clear. A coach can yell at his players. I'm not suggesting, he yelled at his player, blah, blah, blah. But he yelled at Assar. He was upset that Assar made a mistake. Assar, it looked from my direction that he just ignored him, basically. He looked over at him, saw that he was yelling at him, so he just turned and just kept walking to the bench. JB did not like that. He then turned back to Assar on the bench, pointed at the bench, looked like he was maybe either pointing at Assar to sit on the bench, or he screened back to Luke Walton or one of the assistants to then bench Assar, tell Assar he is benched, and play her on. Once that then happened, Assar got up, went to the scorer's table, started clapping. He looked pretty annoyed at that point. And then Ron walked up to him at the scorer's table, patted him on the chest, looked like he was trying to talk to him, calm him down, whatever. They were upset with each other, or Assar and JB was upset with each other about whatever. Ron comes up to him, tries to calm him down, pats him on the chest, takes like maybe 5 to 10 seconds. Assar daps him up. They pat each other on the chest, and Assar goes back to the bench, claps everybody's hands, and he doesn't play again the rest of the game. JB was upset that Assar made, whether it was Assar, Duren, Cade, one of them made a miscommunicate, didn't communicate with each other, and JB sat Assar out of principle the rest of the game. That's what happened. He did not sit him because he wanted to play Ron more. He did not sit him because, they needed to go to the scoring lineup. That's not why he benched him. He benched him because at that moment, he was upset that Assar didn't do what he wanted him to do and didn't like how Assar reacted to him yelling at him. So his response was to sit Assar out of principle and to teach him a lesson. That is what happened. And to me, doing that in a hyper-competitive game against a contender, benching I've always considered Assar their second most impactful player. But if you want to go third behind Duren, either way, your top 3 most impactful player, you bench him for the entire second half when he's having a good game, when you are in a competitive game against a contender to prove a point, to teach a lesson. That's unfathomable to me. I don't know what to say. I can't comprehend that being acceptable. That's just crazy to me. And in the first half, again, I'm at the game. In the first half, JB and Assar were already they had been going back and forth with each other at multiple times during dead balls. JB would say something to him on one defensive play, then a dead ball would happen or a free throw would happen. Assar would walk back to him, look like he's trying to tell him what actually happened or what he feels like happened. JB would then yell back at him something. Like, in the first half, I'm at the game, they were already going back and forth at each other numerous times over certain things defensively that they were either not on the same page on or they felt differently about. Like, they had already been doing this in the first half. It happened a few times. So then at the end of the day, it was an emotional decision that JB made in that third quarter. And it contributed to the Pistons losing control of this game, and it contributed to the Pistons not being able to come back in this game. I'm not saying if they play Assar, they automatically win. Their chances go way higher. I like 100%. And this is not the first time JB has tried to use Assar as a teaching point, has used Assar as the to learn a lesson guy. I mean, I've talked with people. This is not the first time he's done this with Assar. And if you watch the games, this has happened before, where he sat Assar because he doesn't like something he did, or he wants to prove a point, or he wants to use him as the example. This is not the first time this has happened. I'm trying to, it's been an hour since the game and I had to get home. Trying to not go too crazy. But all I'm going to say to end this segment is it was a wildly emotional decision. It was not a basketball decision. It was not because of Ron. It was an emotional decision that was not served. It was not done to help the Pistons win the basketball game. That's not why it happened. It happened because the head coach didn't like how his player reacted to him yelling at him over a miscommunication on defense. That's what happened. And I'll end it with this. I swear to God, if this cost them a playoff game or multiple playoff games again this year, like it did last year, where JB sits Assar, if this happens again, and if JB, oh my goodness, I'm so upset about this because it just makes no sense. If JB in these playoffs doesn't play Assar heavy minutes and they lose multiple games again, like they did last year against the Knicks, because JB just doesn't want to play Assar, no joke, I am being so serious. If that ends up happening, if what we saw tonight ends up happening again in the playoffs, if what we saw in the playoffs last year happens again, if what we've seen JB do with Assar at the end of games so far this year and it not happen again, if this goes on in the playoffs, I would rather the Pistons just trade Assar in the offseason and get a star that JB actually likes than pay Assar $30+ million to be paid like that, and then for your head coach to not want to play him. If JB doesn't want to play Assar 30 minutes, if he's just going to be willy-nilly with just benching him like this just to prove a point in competitive games like this, but then Karis LeVert can dribble off his foot 3 times, and Danis can miss a bunch of shots, and all these Duncan can get beat off the dribble every time he gets, like, if all these other guys can do whatever they want, but you're going to continue to use Assar as the teaching example and never want to play him minutes, sit him late, if that's what it's going to be, I would rather the Trajan just trade Assar for a star that JB does like, so we at least get the minutes out of the player you pay. Don't pay him $30 million. If JB these playoffs does it again. If he does it again in the playoffs, don't pay Assar. Trade him. I would rather trade Assar if every time we go, if you're going to tell me that a $30 million player that you're going to extend every single time you play competitive games, or any time he does something that the coach thinks was his mistake, he sits him. If he's going to, 17 minutes is insane in a game that he was playing well, that they were competitive in, and that they could have won, and you sat him because of this to prove a point, and played Karis LeVert more than him, who had 4 turnovers, played Danis Jenkins, who was struggling massively, and every single time Duncan does something egregious defensively, nothing gets said. This was unfathomable to me. I could not believe it. But I just want to come on the podcast, talk about this, and tell you guys what actually happened. Because all JB is doing is trying to protect himself and protect his guys by not trying to make it seem like there was anything that happened. I'm telling you, that is not why he sat him. Why he sat him is because of what I just told you guys. And if you go back, someone tweeted out the clip. I retweeted it. You can see it slightly in the background when it happens. A few other people that were sitting behind the bench have already tweeted about it and backed up what I'm saying as well, in case people don't, for some reason, don't want to believe me. I cannot believe JB did that. I just can't. And it was a 1-point game. I can't believe it. Not in one of these games. In a game against a bad team, fair. You want to prove a point? Maybe. I'll get it. National TV game against the Spurs, a competitive team, and it's a 1-point game, and you bench him to prove a point. Nah, bro. I can't. That's crazy, man. It's crazy. Coming up, I want to talk about, was this just one night, a one-off night for the Detroit Pistons, or is this a sign of things to come? We'll talk about it and break it down coming up. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship, grab a conference title, the future MVP, six-man, whatever award it is, it adds an extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can you pick cash, but it could also send you to the NBA Finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started, use your profit boost on an NBA future, and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Was this just one night for the Detroit Pistons? Was it just one tough night? Or is this a sign of things to come for Detroit in the playoffs down the stretch? I think it's a little bit of both. Cade's not going to shoot 5 of 26. I mean, people can try to talk about spacing. That wasn't why Cade went 5 of 26. Cade missed multiple open shots. He took multiple tough shots that he shouldn't have taken, that were just bad shot selections. And Cade, he had a dust-up in this game as well. First time I've seen him be... This was the first time I've seen Cade be the reason why a dust-up happened, like be the initiator. He was very frustrated. And you saw it throughout the game. He was frustrated with himself. And it's the first time, really, one of the only times all year, I guess, when I saw his frustrations with how he was playing be displayed outwardly. Like, I'm not... Obviously, when he's played poorly or had a bad game, I'm sure he's frustrated with himself. But usually he stays composed. You don't really see it come outwardly. This was one of the games where you could very clearly see that he was getting frustrated with how things were going, felt the pressure of the national TV, of everything that was going on, and it showed outwardly. That's not going to happen. That's a one-night thing. Cade's not going to shoot this bad throughout a game. Like, he had a really bad game. It's not going to happen all the time. I like that. So in that situation, it wasn't one night. Are the Pistons going to shoot? What was it they shot? 15% or 19% from three every game? No. Are they going to shoot great from three-point line? Probably not. But 19%? No, they're not going to do that every game. So in those aspects, no, it's not. This was just a one night. Cade will be better. They'll shoot better from beyond the arc than they did tonight. Will JB bench Assar out of nowhere and just not play your second or third best player for 20 straight minutes? I'd hope to say that's a one-night thing and not going to happen again. So, like, it's not... I think there's definitely reason to believe this is just one night. However, there are a few things that probably will reoccur moving forward. And one of them is the lack of a secondary scorer. You saw it tonight. The Pistons didn't really have a secondary... I mean, they haven't had all year a real secondary scorer. We all know this. We all know that's something we eventually want them to get. But that was kind of highlighted in this game against the San Antonio Spurs. Secondly, they don't have enough shooting. They simply don't have enough shooting on the roster. We've known this. We know it's going to be something that's addressed in the offseason. But will those two things potentially come back to hurt them in the playoffs? I mean, it probably will be the reason why they get eliminated from the playoffs whenever they do, unless they win the championship, which would be absolutely amazing. But if the Pistons get eliminated in the playoffs, like that will be the reason why. It will be because they didn't have enough shooting and they didn't have enough secondary scoring outside of Cade. In this game, you saw Ron have to take 6 threes. You saw teams really just say, you're going to have to beat us with Ron Holland taking threes in this game. And for Ron's credit, he is confident he'll continue to take them. But when teams do, like, you're falling into the team's trap when they're like, if Ron's going to hit 5 threes, then I guess we'll lose. And they just take that chance. So you see that teams are going to take those type of chances. Ron, by the way, had an absolutely fantastic game. 15 points, 11 rebounds. He was electric, especially in the first half. He was electric. Came in instantly, was all over the place, was active on the glass, was not afraid of Wemby, all this stuff. He had a really good game. But the lack of shooting and the lack of shot creation outside of Cade really jumped off the screen, especially in the second half. The Pistons actually did a fine job, I thought, in the first half of scoring and finding ways to score despite Cade having such a tough game. I mean, they scored 55 points in the first half. So I thought they were doing a decent job of generating offense despite that. But the lack of shooting will continue to come up. The lack of secondary shot creation will continue to come up. And that's just what this team is. That's what this year's version of the Detroit Pistons is going to be. They're going to beat you with defense. They're going to beat you by getting out in transition. And Cade's going to have a good game and close out games in the fourth quarter. Like, that's the recipe to success. And if they don't do that, these other issues will pop up. So those are signs to come. Those are signs that we've already seen. Like, we know that. Everything else, though, I'm not freaking out too much over it. I mean, the Pistons are still having a great season. They've been fantastic against all the top 10 teams so far that they've played. They have a tough stretch coming up. We'll see how they respond to all these other games they play. They got OKC, Cleveland, San Antonio again. Let's wait and see how they play against all these other teams. But San Antonio is a contender themselves. They're one of the best teams in the NBA. Losing to them isn't crazy. The game getting out of hand late, it is what it is. But if Cade has a better game, I think the Pistons have a chance here. Just got to hope that Cade doesn't shoot 5 of 26. Like, it's not – don't think that's going to happen again. But let me know, comment section down below or over on Twitter at Khahil. How you guys feel about this game? Are you guys concerned? Is it just a one game? What are you guys feeling? Let me know, comment section down below or over on Twitter at Khahil. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there, and peace out, everybody.